I'm thinking about the way that I have been taught to talk about bad behavior as like recognizing that it's bad. Um, I do this thing and it's not great, but I'm trying to change it. Or I feel like that's the general energy of what folks sound like. Oh, this is so bad, and I know, and either I'm working on it, or it's just it's here, and I, you know, uh, you know, and it's almost like a hyper explaining ourselves. Like I know what I have here, you know. I know it's bad, I, and I guess it's in a way like you don't gotta tell me. You don't need to add your criticism to me to feel what I am already experiencing. Um, but it's also, what was I gonna say? It's also like a very strange disvalidation, right? Like denial of your experience. So I don't know. Sometimes when I was thinking about me talking about me crying when I used to. So I remember my being specific. I remember in my relationship with Raheem, especially because I was so attached to him, and like I was very codependent, and like felt very alone. Didn't want to be alone, so I like clung to him, right? And when he would leave, it would feel like I was being torn apart, right? Like, oh, you're leaving me, I'm gonna be all by myself. And looking back on it now, it feels almost absurd to name, and it feels embarrassing to have to say out loud. Um, and I don't know, something that this book is teaching me about real softness, about true compassion, is like the grace of being like, I don't know, like holding yourself and understanding the actions you took when you were in survival mode. Because I think when I think of survival mode, I think about when I was a child, right? Because that's when I was taught survival mode and moving through it. And then later on in life, it was not so much that. It was not always survival mode. Like in terms of like my physical needs being met and cared for. Like so it didn't always align that survival mode wasn't always just a physical thing. It's not just when you don't have food on the table, but it's like your body running very traumatized, very triggered by things. A lot of energy spent suppressing emotions, suppressing feelings, suppressing desires, suppressing your needs, suppressing your communication. Is because you're just trying to put on a particular front and just run through the day, because you're running through a lot of other things in your mind, about things that have happened in the past. Yeah, being plagued by thoughts. Like I don't know. I feel like I don't always give myself the true grace and recognition of like what it was like when I had depression, and really was going through those. I laugh, heart wrenching. Like my reality was being torn apart. Um, I don't know, and it's weird. I think I've always wanted somebody to care about that, like be it our therapist or my mom, somebody to like hold, or Raheem, my significant other, to like hold me and be like, "Yo, that's crazy." But it was me who wasn't holding me. Like, "Yo, bro, our world is being torn apart right now." Things like my reality is shattering as I know it. I'm learning things that are entirely flipping my identity, and nobody else is going. You're right. Nobody else seems to be going through it the way you are trying to vocalize it, and it just made me think of when I was a kid. I feel like as a kid, I was going through a lot of big feelings that I was not supported through. So yeah, because I've been thinking about coping mechanisms or like defense mechanisms from childhood, and I definitely have this rationalizing brain that like explains everything, over explains, asks a lot of questions, curiosity almost to a point of excess. Um, because it's like wanting to understand why all the time. I feel that was a big question in my life. Why? Why for a lot of things, like why is the sky blue, right? Why is the ocean over there and not over here? Things like that. But it would also be like, why? Why do I feel this way? Why do I get treated this way? why is my mom like that? Why is my dad like that? Um, so yeah, holding space for like and genuinely like holding myself as I remember how lonely I have felt in life and how that's informed how I respond to other people and not trusting other people. I remember the moment I thought, if my mom can treat me like this, anybody could treat me like this. And when I remember going through things with my mom was my best friend growing up, and when we went through this like big separation that was not facilitated well because she never really let me breathe as a kid, so suddenly she cut me the fuck off when we were going through our like, you know, I was becoming a teenager. I was individualizing, and yeah, so our whole relationship shifted. And I remember the moment being like, if this can happen with somebody who's your best friend like your mom, that shit can happen with anybody. And I felt so, I guess the word then became almost apathetic, right? It's like, I'm not gonna get so attached to other people. But then did. And yeah, it's a lot as I sit with, you know, like when I think about when we talk about attachment styles, I think we talk about it very much as like a psychological term, things that you can like unpack and, you know, write it down. This is this and this and that and this and this. But it's important for us to reflect on how it actually shows up for us, how we experience our attachment style, what kind of care we seek, how we live out our relationships based on our security, based on how we feel about ourselves, based on what we think that we can get on our own, based on what we think other people are to us, based on how resourceful we feel. So yeah, tenderly holding myself today.